There we go.
Oh,
Hello, everybody.
hello everyone.
Welcome again to our question and answer series. This is the 22nd one we've been doing.
22nd, yes.
So let's dive right in. Linda's asking that it's been mentioned before that the cross, among other things, represents the balancing of the four elements in our body. How exactly do we do that? And does a balance or imbalance affect the work of the holy archangels of the elements in our body? Yeah, the four elements of the cross represent the four elements. The long part of the cross going down represents the earth element. The right side could represent the fire element, the left side the water element, and the upper part of the cross would be the air element. And at the very center of the cross is the fifth element, the etheric element, from which all four elements come from. So what's that mean about balancing in our body? Well, we have an emotional body, a mental body that correspond to these elements. Emotional body corresponds to the water element. Fire represents the noetical body, the mental body. And the earth element represents, obviously, the physical body. So balancing this, we did the three suns meditation is how we balance that cross in us. And of course, the etheric is everywhere. So it's involved in every part of this. As far as the archangels, this is a good question because no, they don't get affected by it. It's like this: the archangels working in our bodies, they don't really care to attune to our personality because to them, negativity smells. They don't like it, so they just concentrate on their work in the body. But they're, especially like the guardian angel who's in the body too. He's more connected to the personality. He's attuned. I mean, one with the body, the mind, the heart, and the spirit soul. So spirit anyway, soul. Anyway, it's almost like if you had a bunch of garbage and you put a mirror in front of it. Does the garbage affect the mirror? No. It gets reflected in the mirror, but it doesn't harm the mirror. And it's the same way with the guardian angels and all the angels. They act like these perfect, pure mirrors. They will reflect back to you your own self, but they're not damaged by it or affected by it like that.
Yes, the cross is the symbol of four elements. He says air, but sometimes we say like the top part is ether and the right part is fire, left part is water, and the bottom part is earth. Earth. But in the middle, it's a level of the etheric vitality and the highest point. Of course, from this point we just manifest. We came from. This is the source of all elements. So, in middle point is the highest vibration of all etheric mind, etheric vitality, but symbolizes as the top part as ether and the bottom part as we described. So, as in the world of creation, duality, the world of existence is created based on this law, and our three bodies, human beings, three bodies are created based on that law too. We call it the tetractys, four elements, law of four elements. And not only in our material body, in our psychical body, in our noetical body, we have this. Of course, it's made of based of this symbol. So this law is in all levels of our bodies. So what our work is using the four-sided pyramid as the symbol. We work on our adjustment or harmonize the balance or imbalance into the perfect harmony, the middle point, the perfect shape. And the archangels are helping us, more like helping us to adjust, harmonize those kind of imbalance as the present day personality into the perfect harmony.
Stefan is asking, I'm curious about one of the teachings that states there is no transmigration between plant, animals, and human. More and more people I'm seeing with information that they're getting from accessing the Akashic records. One in particular was saying that if you could come back as a bird or a tree, it's like a contradiction. Or is the law of no transmigration about tree becoming a human and later incarnating and vice versa? I've also read about humans imprinting on their pets in a way that would allow them to become human incarnated in the future. Is that possible? No. There is no transmigration. I know it's a very popular New Age thing, but it really comes out of India, but it's got distorted a long time ago in India. You can go into those animals and live as the animal or as the plant. You can become one. It's through at-one-ment. We can do attunement too, but what you're talking about here is some human experience in animal life. That's done by at-one-ment. But it got confused someplace along the line. I think that's where the basic idea comes from, but then it's been changed over the centuries or millennia, really. And it's just not possible. It's there is no transmigration. There's no way for us to become, a monkey. I know I was in India one time and they were saying, oh, if you have a desire on your deathbed for a piece of fruit, you will come back as a fruit fly. And I said, really? I mean, please, really? Is that what they're teaching us? No, the Son of Man is something so much higher. It's the crown of creation. It's higher than the plants, higher than animals. Now, we're not living to the highest degree, all of us, but we will. So no, there is no transmigration. Those are just kind of New Age notions. What the people talking about imprinting on their pet, what they do is they do imprint on the print. They print their own elementals, their own thoughts and feelings about the pet, and fortunately, that's called anthropomorphism, where you give human feelings to animals, plants. I give it to my computer. I think it's after me. So, yeah, it's not possible to make a cat come back as a human being in the next lifetime. That's not sure.
Yep, I have same opinion. Mineral kingdom, plant kingdom, animal kingdom, human being kingdom. It's all they are all created by the perfect law of creation, based on the development of the consciousness of each world, mineral kingdom, plant kingdom, animal, and human kingdom, different levels of consciousness. And in our human beings, kingdom, we have different levels of consciousness too. But those different levels of consciousness create different, what we call worlds, and archetypes are different. So it can't be like a human being can immediately incarnate as a tree or vice versa. If it is possible, the law doesn't work and the universe will collapse. So on this point, it is impossible to do that. Everything is created harmoniously and perfectly under the divine law of creation. So this is one part. And the Akashic record, we have to be very careful, to say, oh, I reached the Akashic record, I read this and that, Only when we can say, oh, I know our past lives, is like when we reach self-realization, what he calls master level, then we can call, oh, I had this, my spirit soul had an incarnation like that and this. But until we reach self-realization, we can't really say we can read the whole Akashic record or accuracy of what we read. Well, some part might be true, but some part might be, we read the record, which we think ourselves, like a Akashic record in our psychoanalytical shell. So we have to we have to be very humble and careful to say, to read Akashic record things. Can I? And as he says, self-realized being. Once we reach self-realization, then we can enter into animal or mineral or whatever. We can enter into it and can have experience. But I don't think they're gonna incarnate as the plant or mineral. It doesn't need to be, because they can freely enter in that and work their mission.
Yeah, something else about master level or self-realization. The levels of consciousness that humans start at is the instinctive, subconscious, awakening consciousness, finally super consciousness. But there's many levels in that, and all through the level of super conscious, you start to pick up and read pieces of the Akashic records. But it's like she said, you can't be 100% sure. Daskalos said one time in Cyprus that you can't, if you pick up information or faint whispers or impressions of a past life of yours. He said you cannot be sure unless you can go into that lifetime and trace it from being child to death. Then you can be sure. But there's a lot of, it's like she said, you're picking up a lot of stuff from the subconsciousness that people nowadays are interpreting as reading the Akashic records. But then you can have a mixture. You can pick up some real things, but then you have some your own ideas coming in from your subconscious, which you're not aware of. And you can create a distorted picture of things. Yeah.
We don't need to degrade, but we need to be careful a little bit.
Okay, dear Laura is asking, can you speak some more about the moments following the transition from the material world to the next plane, as in the dying process? I want to give my mother something to hold on to. What kinds of things might I share with her, given that she's not dwelt on the subject and has been afraid to think about it, is mainly materialist, and also that I myself do not have a lot of conscious experience to draw from. Perhaps in such cases, just saying she will be fine and at peace is enough. Yeah, one time there was a lady came to Daskalos, and she had a bad disease or something, and he can't cure everything. The law of cause and effect governs this. He can't override the law of cause and effect. Nobody can. Not even the archangels do it. Try it. So she was going to die. But he said, "Oh, you're going to be all right." And then after she left, he turned. He said, "Did I tell her the truth? She's going to die. But didn't I tell her the truth? Because at the moment after passing over, whatever afflictions you have physically, we're going to be gone for sure." So, case by case basis, Laura, I don't know your mother. If she believes in God, you might make the approach, well, God created all this. He gave you birth. You came into life safely. You're going to exit life safely. He's not going to hit you and kill you at the end, make this horrible thing. Now, the dying process can be very tough. But again, that's based on the law of cause and effect. It's not an accident. People suffer. And if they knew what their suffering could do for them, they would pray never for it to stop, because it cleans you so much. And that raises your conscience, uplifts your awareness to where you can go on to a higher and higher plane. So the most important thing is just to give her the sense that everything's going to be all right.
Yeah. As he mentioned in the last question, in our answer, the human kingdom, we have a different level of consciousness, starting with instinctive consciousness, subconscious, conscious consciousness, and super consciousness. So we have the stage of the development of our consciousness. So even if we are sitting in this dimension, sitting side by side, living as a family or living as a close friend or couple, whatever, the development of our consciousness, the level of our consciousness is different. So when we approach to tell the truth which we know, to share with whoever whoever we want to share, we need a proper discernment how much light they can absorb comfortably, they can understand comfortably, rather than the discouragement or kind of inferiority, how much we can give a kind of real benefit to them. So this is on this point, this is our responsibility to discern how much light we can share with people, whoever. So on this point, you know, Lola, about your mother very well, as you described it. So just think about how much she can absorb comfortably what you know. And if I were you, share whatever you feel good and that you know how much you know that she can absorb. And if I were you, I do that. I do like this way. And the reason why we spend the psychoanalytical world after passing on is like leaving or leaving all kind of pain and suffering which we experienced in this dimension and prepare ourselves for the next incarnation. So for that purpose, we spend a certain period. It depends on the person. You know, we don't know how long we're gonna stay in the psychoanalytical world, fourth, fifth dimension, but it's just for releasing the pain and the suffering of which we experienced and prepare for the next incarnation. So, for the person who are passing on this dimension, just give them like encouragement and how much they have done in this dimension and in her life in your case, you know, and praise them and encourage them and uplift their vibration as high as possible before they pass on, so they can reach, you know, if they feel comfortable, you know, to hear what they had done, then they can uplift their vibration and it's easier for them to reach to the highest possible psychoanalytical shell in the psychoanalytical world. So please try to make comfort and give encouragement to your mother rather than confronting or debating what the truth should be or what is the truth. There's no point to debate or confront each other on the, even if it is truth, we should discern what can give them the hope and the encouragement to uplift. Uplifting the vibration is the most important. If I were you, I would access like that way.
Joe's asking, I feel like emotions move slower than the mind. Is this at all true? And if so, how might it affect our ability to see life objectively? There are three speed limits in reality. One, you know, the speed of light, that's a limit in the material level. Then the second speed limit is the speed of thought. And the third speed limit is the speed of light. It can happen, I mean, it's just instantaneous when it acts like that. So, in a way, going slower might give you a better or clearer objective. I mean, objective look at things because you take your time. And it's good to slow down the thought too, to take your time. And it's really, I would say, it's not so much the speed, but the quality of your emotions. In other words, if you're negative or dissatisfied or something, you know, it's gonna distort your view of the reality. So it really depends on what's in your feelings, what kind of feelings you have. If you're open-hearted, clear, open mind, yeah, go slow, and you'll see things much clearer.
Mhm.
You've got a second question. Why don't you answer that
Yeah,
one first?
maybe. Yeah. Can I go
Yeah,
first?
yeah.
You know? Yeah, good observation, Joe. I understand your observation fast and slow is like you are sensing the element of thought, the the our thought is the element of fire, and our emotion is element of water. So just compare the nature of fire and the water. Fire is more like a pump, 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 right? So the quick movement, and then the water is more like a flow, like this way, like this kind of movement. So I sensed you catch this nature of fire and water as thought and emotion. So as the next step, back to your question, I suggest you to create elemental consciously. In our teaching, we have a thought, emotion type of elemental, and emotion, thought type of elemental. We have two ways of creating an elemental, right? So please consciously create the elemental for example, for the one aim, one goal as the thought desire elemental or desire thought element, and compare and examine, experiment which element make it happen, come true earlier or more efficiently. Please try it. It's very fun. And even we already know the answer. The answer is the thought desire for thought emotion type of elemental works much, much better and faster. There's a reason behind it. And that we study consciously, purposely, create a thought, emotion, or desire type of elemental. We train ourselves because thought gives elemental and a continuation of existing that elemental. Elemental is always existing once we create it, but they keep it, continue to keep it in a consciousness. But desire gives the elemental like more power and energy. So just observe everything and observe your thought and emotion, and try to make elemental consciously, and enjoy how the result will come to you.
His second question is about a quote from Benjamin Franklin. It says, contentment can make a poor man rich, and discontentment can make a rich man poor, which rings so true for me. How would the teachings reflect this saying in the context of self-realization? It's true. I mean, Daskala said the worst illness he's ever seen was just somebody that's discontent, because they're never happy with anything. They're dissatisfied with everything. These are the kind of people who find fault with, oh, this isn't right. This little teeny thing isn't right. You could give them a bag of gold and they would complain about the bag color. So rich people are like this. Not everyone, of course, but some rich people, they have so much money, but they're never satisfied. They're always finding fault. They're just discontent. So I think the best example of this story would be, I have a friend named Wendell who lived in India. And when I was in India, you could see these lepers. There were leopards just walking around on the streets, or you'd run across them. And it's a horrible, horrible disease. And he was there in the 70s, a little earlier than I was. And he was walking down the street and he saw this one guy. His fingers were all gone. They'd rotted off. And he had rags wrapped around him. He was just sitting on the street. He had no place to live. His nose was gone. And he was sitting there singing to God in the most beautiful voice you could imagine. And in that moment, he was connected with God. So he wasn't feeling dissatisfaction. He wasn't feeling the discomfort of being a leper. Can you imagine? But being in that condition and not cursing God when they have affliction. But this guy was just singing God, praising to God, his stumps of a hand. So I think that speaks quite loudly. And it's the same thing in the teaching. Self-realization, you're not going to have any complaints or discontents or anything like that. But on the way, we tend to complain about things that we get that we don't want to get.
Thank you for sharing the beautiful story about from Wendy.
Mhm.
Yeah, we do have the same word in Japan, and I believe that Shakamuni said same thing. Shakamuni said same thing, and also
Sakamune.
Shakamuni. In Japanese, we call it the Oshaka-sama. Shakamuni said same thing.
Something like that.
And also Laozi, Laozi,
Lao Tzu.
Laosu.
Lousy. That's not a good
Laos.
word.
Oh, really? Oh, the Laosi. In Japanese, we call him Loshi. Anyway, Laosu.
Lao Tzu.
Laosu mentioned the same thing. It's very important to feel satisfaction and relating to the self-realization, which you mentioned, characteristic. One of the main characteristic of God is self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency, the sense which we feel nothing is missing. So no dissatisfaction. So in this sense, the more we count what we are given already, the more we feel satisfaction. Of course, it's resonating divine. So we will be given more and more because it's resonating the divine, ultimate divine state. So it's very important. Please, you asked a very good question, and it's a great opportunity, especially now. Let's try to count whatever we are given already, rather than we are not given yet, or the count what we are missing. Rather than that, let's appreciate whatever we are given now already. That's going to create and how can I say, amplify the divine vibration staying in here. Without changing the place, without meeting the master, we can change the vibration in us by doing so.
Good. Now, this is a very good question, and I hope I don't mispronounce your name, Vios. The question is really good. When we meet in the fourth and fifth dimensions, how do we know each other? Do we know each other with our earthly names? That's a great question. Because as you know, we talk about the perfect psychonoetical body and then our version of the psychonoetic body. So in other words, the perfect version of the psychonoetic body is an archetype that's held by the guardian angel, like a blueprint for us to build and structure our own psychonoetic self, which means emotion and mental. So initially, we're not very well shaped. So if a master would see a common person on the inner planes, he would see their body like a lumpy sack of potatoes. It wouldn't be shaped well at all. But the person seeing themselves as they know, we call it the residual image of themselves from Earth. So, but if you knew that person on Earth, if you didn't know the person on Earth, you would see that lumpy thing. If you were a master, you could see like that. But you could also see something else, the spirit soul behind that. So if you know a person and you meet them on the inner plane, you will see them as you knew them on Earth because of the residual image. But it's what does it is the soul. You sense without recognizing it at all that there's a vibration coming from the soul, right? And when you feel that, you bring up this residual image of the person you knew. So you would know them as Charlie or John or whatever, and you would see that form you knew as Charlie and John, and you would identify them as that.
Yeah. And in the psychonoetical world, it's made of the particles, and each particle emit light. So through the experiential knowledge, we don't need to know the name or anything. We can tell it instantly, even if they have a quite different appearance. We can immediately know, oh, this is who, or this is, no, this is he, or this is her. But even when we meet the visiting entities in this dimension, we see them like with psychonautical eyes, right? Then we can tell it immediately who they are, even if they have a different appearance. It's easy, and it instantaneously comes, so we can't deny. We can't think, oh, that might be true or not. It comes.
Stefan asks a question. I've heard about, my question is about artificial intelligence eventually being conscious. My personal feeling is that this can never happen, but could it be an idea, like the human idea that the archangels project through that we have just not evolved into yet? No, you're right. It can't become conscious. What is artificial intelligence? It's that stupid algorithm. Sorry, when you go on Google and you search for, I don't know, TV, and then next thing you know, when you run around, you get all these ads about TV. Some human has written this code to say, oh, when they look for this, next time they are on here, send them the ad, and the ad people participate in this program. But it's written by a human being. The ideas, the divine ideas, are God's. They're eternal. But this is a human idea. I think the human got this idea, oh, this is going to be great. We'll sell more products if we write this code that shows them what they search for. They're more likely to buy. And it's true. So artificial intelligence can never become conscious because it's not a living thing. Consciousness is given to the mineral kingdom is sensitivity, sensitivity. Plant kingdom is sensitivity and sensibility. Animal kingdom instincts. Human kingdom instincts. Subconsciousness, awakening consciousness, and superconscious, and finally self-superconsciousness, or call it superconscious self-awareness. That's what it is. So no machine's ever going to do that, but that doesn't mean they can't do a lot just being with artificial intelligence. Now, the futurists who look into these kind of things about where we're going, what's going to happen next, I mean, we are rapidly approaching what they call an event horizon. The event horizon is someplace where they can't see beyond what's going to happen. Right now, you can see it's going to get smarter and smarter. Right now, computers that we have on our desktop are about as intelligent as the squirrel's brain. But pretty soon, it's going to be each computer is going to have the power of a human being's thinking process. And then right after that, the computers will have the combined process of all human brains, as it were. You can imagine that. So nobody can understand what's going to happen beyond that. It's not going to become conscious, but it could become an artificial, which means mechanical, system that controls everything. No one can tell what's going to happen after that. We are really close to getting there. We're very close to approaching the point where the artificial intelligence is making machines. So you have a machine making another machine. And when they get it down to where the machines are making these nanobots, which has already started, and those really take over, we can't see what's going to happen next. But it will never become conscious because the conscious human can always pull the plug, right? Just take the power away and it stops. So it's never going to become like a conscious entity at all.
As he mentioned a little bit, AI, we have to understand that AI is human-made, and human-made who are not self-realized yet, mostly. And human beings, we are created according to the image of God, which means it is absolute consciousness. And it is also absolute self-awareness. This self-awareness, for me, the point of self-awareness is very important. The ultimate self-awareness, ultimate consciousness is love. So we human beings can reach ultimate stage, ultimate level, because we came from there. But the AI, for to a certain level, it will reach. It seems like it has a much developed consciousness, more than the human being. But the, you know, archetype and the structure itself is completely different. And we human beings are much, much gifted and created in a perfect way. It's all up to us how much we unfold this divine nature, divinity in us. So, in this sense, it can't be like archetype of archetype, no, human-made AI can't be the archetype of something. It doesn't make sense for me. Yes.
Yes.
And
Go ahead.
and the teaching says very high developed consciousness with undeveloped self-awareness create most dangerous condition. So we are facing to the high developed technology without love create disaster. Very dangerous. But we human beings can develop both. So please keep it in your mind. We have to develop both consciousness and self-awareness in a balanced way.
That's a very good point. The other thing is the archangels, when they create something, it's living. They created the entire material universe, the psychical universe, noetical universe, and everything in them. And they're living because they give their breath of life into their creation. The human beings will eventually be able to do that, but not for most of them, not for a long time. But so what we create, it's dead. You create a computer, it doesn't create another computer. So it's no real life in it. So that's a big difference too.
No.
That one? Yeah. I have previously heard Daniel state that there, within the Researchers of Truth system, there are always 7 masters on Earth at the same time. And also that there are more masters in other systems, such as the Dalai Lama. Please, could you tell us more about some of these other systems and how their masters work with the masters of Researchers of Truth? Are these other systems and masters the ones that Joshua Emanuel referred to as the sheep of another fold? Yeah, that's them. And they don't really directly work with other masters from other systems. They work with their own people. Sometimes, like the Buddha is an Asian descent thing. So they're working with the Asians, but they don't come in our system and work in our system. Yet they are all helping us toward the same goal, which is to awaken. And so in that sense, they're just brothers and sisters, and they bless each other, but they don't get in their other systems and work directly. One time Christ was healing, and one of the disciples came and said, Master, there's this other guy over here throwing out demons from people, but he's not doing it in your name. Should we stop him? And Christ said, whoever's not against us is with us. So in this regard, anybody's working toward the light, anybody helping anybody raise, we're all brothers working toward the same goal.
I see it like we have 7 chakras, 7 centers, altogether 10 though. Like this, on the planet body, we have 7 centers, chakras. Like this, those masters, even just think about our chakras, they are having a different function, but they all together we create one body, right? So it's a mechanism of harmony of each different centers. We can say it to our body, we can say it to our planet. Like this, all those kind of masters, teachers are taking a role of the energy grid of light, But we, each one of us can be the small grid and connect the light or the
This is a question. Once detached, no, I missed that one. Here's one. What was Dascalos, the researcher's truth position on the use of psychedelics, such as magic mushroom and or peyote and or San Pedro to attain self-knowledge and enlightenment? Dascalos and researchers of truth advises to avoid them. But there are, I just, from my opinions and observations, there are places in time in your evolution early on where you need to see the possibilities. So these drugs do show you some possibilities, but there's other things that come with them as well. So we're not saying absolutely never do that. We're just saying we don't advise to do that. It's like that. It's a gentle thing, because I know there's a lot of people who have told me stories where they realized some great truth. I had one fellow come here who had taken which one? Oh yeah, the ayahuasca one. And it was so funny. He came to visit one day, and I had just been studying in Dascalos' innermost circle teachings about the nature of reality. And this guy came and explained his experience, and he was saying exactly the same thing. He saw it. But again, the problem I think Dascalos would say this too, but the problem that I see with it is you get used to some external thing to get to the where. And we don't want that. We want to be able to get there on our own power.
That's right.
So if we rely on some external thing, whatever, if it's peyote, San Pedro, or magic mushrooms, it's still an external thing.
Right.
It's like getting too attached to a guru. It's like you get stuck on that level. And we want to go there directly because we are the Son of God. We are sons of God. And we have the right. We have the right to reach this level of consciousness.
It's beautiful. I like it. Yes. Yes, I have the same opinion with him. And my first point is addiction. Once we start to use external things to have experience or to reach high, whatever, we don't deny or we don't reject or anything, but once we start to use external things to have experience, we tend, not everyone, not always, but we tend to depend on using this kind of external things to go high or whatever. But as he says, everything is in us already. So, on the process, it might help you to, open your, by the experience. I don't know what it is, but it might help you, but not always and all the way. So addiction, we have to be very careful. If we need to use it all the time, it's called addiction. So it might cause a spiritual backsliding. Rather than that, in our teaching system, we study introspection. Once we get rid of all unnecessary emotional thoughts and all stains, divine nature will bloom automatically unfold from within us. So, like he said, we don't deny it. It's up to your free will, but we don't need to depend on those kind of external things. And we can do introspection. This is the safest and also most trustful way to experience highest of highest.
I'll say another thing about it. Those kind of things, when you're driving your car and you have that mirror on the right side and it says objects may appear closer than they are or farther away than they are, whatever, closer than they are. That's because the mirror is convex. It curves out a little bit. So it allows you to see a larger view than a flat mirror. So when the people take drugs, it's like it does that to their mind. They can see a little further. But again, it's an artificial thing to do that. But it does show you more, but it's somewhat distorted too. And I'll also tell you about, it's like we talk about, it's getting addiction. Now, Sigmund Freud, most people don't know this, but Sigmund Freud, you always see him smoking a cigar. Well, he had an addiction to cigars. He smoked 30 of those cigars a day. He had an addiction to alcohol, and he had an addiction to cocaine. And finally, he decides, I got to stop this cocaine stuff, right? So he starts taking morphine to get rid of his addiction to cocaine, which worked, but then he got addicted to the morphine. So it's these external things we get so attached to that can just, it works for a little bit and then it just locks you into that level. And it's hard to get beyond it.
Right. And then experiences after taking these kind of external things, we need to observe very carefully what kind of a world we are really connecting to after taking this. It can be, most likely, it can be kind of certain psychomedical show which are created by the people who are taking this kind of external aid or whatever. So please observe carefully the real experience. It can be a real experience. We can call it the real experience, but discern very carefully which world you are really connecting to.
Mario has a good question here. Once detached from elementals, can they influence others and situations and your attention in the environment to make them return? Of course. Are they basically attempting to re-energize themselves? Absolutely. Think of a person who gives up smoking, it's so hard to give up smoking, what was it? Mark Twain said, it's so easy to give up smoking. I've done it hundreds of times, which means the elemental returns. You keep taking back up smoking, So, but that's exactly what happens. If you really break your attachment with the elemental, it returns to the cosmic consciousness, but it can be attracted by anybody else who starts to vibrate in the same way. And this is very true of smoking. A lot of times I used to be around smokers, and I would notice that this one person I knew, when we were out to eat, and someone lit a cigarette at another table, she would light a cigarette. It was an elemental influencing her right there. She had it in her, but somebody else's elemental could stimulate it in her too. So they're ready to reattach themselves at any time, and especially the ones you kick off yourself. They want to come back. They'll keep knocking at the door. Let me in, and then you can do it this way. It's so subtle sometimes, the whisperings of this elemental to get you to act on it. And when you try to get not to act on it, it finds other ways to offer it to you that you are not thinking about it. Seem, maybe that's okay this time or something. So you have to be always on the alert. But once you break it, you really break it and you put your mind on something else, it's very hard for the elemental to get you again unless you open the door. If you don't open the door to it, it won't come in. It won't bother you. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Open the door, which he means is just start to think about it or focus on it. And then open the door immediately because the vibration attune each other, right? So the door will open. Yes, of course. Once the elemental which we created are detached, it will trouble. Just like the Christ mentioned about it troubled and energize, environment and the people who are resonating, vibrating in the same level or the same kind of elemental, and at the end it will come back to us because we are the creator. So that elemental, it's a home, of that elemental. So having a friend, let's go back. After traveling and having a lot of friends, the Christ said they come back 7 times.
With 7 others.
Yes, right. So, and preserved in our subconsciousness again. And then once we think about it, it comes up and project, and it will multiply like that way. So we, of course, it will influence and come back definitely to ourselves. So we have to create, we are like a factory of the elementals. So let's see what kind of product we are producing every moment.
Okay. A question about singing and healing bowls from Tibet. Are they useful and why? Crystal or metal? And which tones are the best, or for which chakras for the sound vibration? Vibration creates both color and sound. Some materials like crystal bowls or metal bells, when you hit them, they make a harmonious sound, and it's nice. You listen to that, it makes you feel harmonious. Other things like wood, you hit that, it's not that great of a sound. So it depends what the material is. And those create very harmonious sounds. So it's a good thing to tune in to harmonious sounds. Now, which for the chakras? Well, in the East, you know the word Om, but sometimes in Tibet it's AUM. So the ah is for the lower chakras, the oo is for the heart chakra, and the is for the head chakra. So the vibrations are different between those three letters, making up the word Om.
No?
Yep.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. As he said, the vibration can be transferred into color, sound, and also numbers. So sound therapy is going to be one of the major medical treatment near future, or it's already happening, because universes or even our bodies, all creation are created by the sound, and the color. So it's reasonable, it's quite reasonable to cure or heal our body with the color of light or the sound, because we are created like the combination of the sound of the archangels, our bodies. So everything is created by the vibration. So it's yes, and it doesn't matter, crystal ball or metal ball. It's all about the vibration. And once the vibration they create is matching, and harmonious to cure all kind of disease, it's gonna it's gonna work. It doesn't matter whatever crystal ball and the ball you use. Yes, and yeah, as he says, the color can be converted into sound. So we use sky blue sphere on a solar plexus, the whitish pink and heart center, and whitish golden color, or canary yellow color on our head center. So we need to convert the color vibration into sound. Then the same healing effect we can expect.
Last question is about political activism, protesting, intelligent confrontation. If we confront intense situations directly in protests or arguments, are we creating negative karma? If I do this activity, what is the best way to approach it without causing karma, but enhancing our participation in society? Now, this is a good question. It's going to be a very more important question coming up in the future here.
Already know.
Yeah, already now, right? So the point is, if we confront them in protest or arguments, are we creating negative karma? Yes. Now, I grew up in the 60s, right, where the protests against the Vietnam War, and people get on the streets with these things, and they were so angry protesting, but they were protesting for peace, kept saying peace on their signs. They're railing at the establishment, right? Well, that vibration they created went into feeding the thing they were against. So what we want to do is to protest for something good, not against something bad. If you do something against something, you're creating some sort of violence, really. It's kind of a violence. But if you're protesting for what is right and true, that's pretty good. But a lot of times those protests go get out of hand. So if you're in when it starts to get a little shaky, I would get out of there. It starts to get violent because the other side comes and they want to beat. Back in my day, they came and beat those guys down with nightsticks. So it just fueled the thing they were protesting against. So yeah, just protest for something good. Stand up for something good. Don't take this BS that's being shoved down our throats, but you can stand up peacefully and without opposing the negative. That's the key. Christ said, resist not evil. Now, most people just go, what? We're supposed to resist evil? No, we're not supposed to resist evil. We're supposed to energize good to overcome the evil.
Yes. Teaching says, sometimes we have to raise our voice to say what we need to say, but just introspect what's inside of our hatred, anger, dissatisfaction, or say something which we really need to say, but with love, with peace, with wisdom. So before you make an action, if I were you, please create the elemental thought, emotional form of elemental, using reason first, and check it if it's necessary or if it's reasonable or not first, and create the ideal condition to make action. And when you've inspired at reasonable and good to make action, then wish, and we will make action. But even if when we make action, just before you make action, just check, introspect in yourself. When you say something very strong, then check inside of you. You are saying this with reason, love, and peace. Then I think it won't create unnecessary karma, negative karma, which we need to reap in the future.
Yeah, truthfully, if we don't stand up for something good, we're going to fall for anything. And this society, this world society, has fallen for a great illusion, and we're about to throw it off. We're trying to throw it off. The society, the world itself, is trying to throw it off. And by world, I mean the people of the world. So, yeah, we need to stand for something good.
And I would like to add, this party, that party, all person who are fighting think of themselves they are right. Both sides think of themselves right. So just before you make action, try to create the harmony and the ultimate goal, not the polarity. Aim and hope the possibility of unity. This is the middle point which Christ said, the polarity. So aim high beyond the duality, and how we can make it possible to make it happen without fighting each other.
I'll tell you one story that really speaks to this that Dascalos told us. And I don't know if you know it, but Cyprus used to be a Greek and Muslim Turkish island, Greek Christian and Muslim Turkish island. And they got along for a long time. Dascalos had circles on the Muslim side and on the Greek side, of course. But one day, the Greeks did something politically to weaken the Turkish representation of Cyprus. And Turkey got really mad. And so they invaded the island, and they killed the Greeks and drove the Greeks to the south side of the island before the UN could come up and stop them, right? So now they have a green line, just like Beirut had, and all this stuff, when the Christians on one side, the Muslims on the other side. Well, one day, I don't know who got the idea, but a bunch of people got the idea that they should have a national day and have a parade for their great Greek culture. So they were on the south side of this border, this green zone, and they drums and trumpets and everything. And Dascalos told the guy, "You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what the effect of this is going to be." So they were protesting this for their own thing. Well, the guy told Dascalos, "Well, what difference make? They can hear us on the other side." And he says, "You'll find out in about a week." Well, about a week later, the Muslims started doing National Day, and they did the same thing on the other side. And he said it didn't even matter if they heard it; they just felt it. So they did the same exact thing. Maybe they knew about it too somehow, but this is what keeps the division, the polarity, them versus us. So be careful. Be careful what you protest for.
Yeah. But our biggest goal is to admit and understand the difference of our expression. So please find the middle point for the unity. This is the greatest homework for each and one of us.
See, what I was talking about is really, it stimulated a thing called national elementals. We have personal elementals, family elementals. We have national elementals too. And so the Greeks energizing their elementals of how great their nation was stimulated the Muslims to do the same thing. Well, thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Yes, see you next time. Have a beautiful day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.